Welcome, everyone, to the First Waves show. This podcast is for those of you who are looking to boost your career development and continuously improve day after day. If you aspire to bring more value to your company, invest in yourself, and have a great career in the corporate world, this show is for you. If you are not able to take notes while listening to this podcast, no worries. I have included a free download that features helpful learning nuggets and simple action points. You can select 1 to 2 points from the list, put them into practice, and see if you notice a difference. You will find a link to this freebie in the show notes. This podcast is sponsored by Wave Business Excellence Footprint, an environmentally friendly online training company that cares about your personal development. I am delighted to share with you a powerful approach to achieve immediate results. With our 10-step process, you can identify and implement quick wins within just 2 weeks. This method promises to create instant impact and drive significant progress towards your goals. Are you considering taking a course to enhance your work environment? Or perhaps you are unsure about how some of these tools and techniques work, and you would like to test the waters first to see how they can benefit you? What is fascinating is that when you improve a process, the impact is felt by many people. Firstly, you will feel the impact yourself because you can feel the difference and enjoy doing less rework, waiting time, corrections, and so forth. Additionally, your colleagues will be happier because there will be less friction between the processes and your work. You will not need to send as many reminders as before, and your colleagues will not be annoyed by unsynchronized process steps. Your manager will also be pleased because they will hear about fewer incidents and mistakes that may have occurred during the month. It also has an impact on the customer because they will notice that the product or service can be delivered in shorter time frame. Perhaps the product or service is delivered with higher quality, or the customer experience is much better. Customers will enjoy coming back for more, and you will enjoy coming to work because you will feel that you have the capacity to improve things so that you can add more value and get things done efficiently and effectively. If you're curious to learn about one of the many tools offered in the Lean Practitioner course and put that one tool to the test so you can make an instant impact in your work environments by identifying the low-hanging fruits, also known as quick wins, in less than 2 weeks, then this podcast episode is for you. If you have already taken part in the Lean training and know the tool called 8 Wastes, I will be able to give you a new twist on how to use this tool and get further results. I will create a step-by-step process for you as if it were a mini training. As a freebie, you will find this step-by-step approach, and I will also give you a link to a cool way how to look at the 8 wastes in a graphical way. Soon, you'll be able to look at the business world and your private life through the 8 wastes lens in a completely different way. First, I will explain to you what the 8 wastes are, which are called in Japanese MUDAs. This term is used quite often, and if you hear the word MUDA, then you know that it represents waste. After explaining what each waste represents, I will describe to you how to use this tool so that you can identify quick wins and implement changes within 2 weeks. Everything we do in life and in business either creates value or no value. These are linked with value-added steps or non-value-added steps. But there is one more. It's called ancillary activities, and they lie in the middle. An example of a value-added step in processing a payment is doing the transaction in the system. When we look at ancillary activities, these are the steps in the process that comply with, for example, regulatory requirements from the local government. The client does not perceive these internal process steps as valuable, but they are still needed from the business point of view. When you archive the documents, this is something that you need to do internally, but it does not interest the end customer that much. And the final group is the non-value added activities. This could be, for example, processing the payment for the second time because the first payment was incorrect. This type of MUDA is called rework, and it does not add value to the end customer or to the company because the payment should have been done correctly the first time. Now, additional processing time needs to be invested and therefore increasing operational costs. The example above is just one type of MUDA. There are different models on how to remember the 8 wastes. One way to remember them is to use the acronym downtime. The word has 8 letters that will represent each MUDA. The first letter in downtime is D, and D represents defects. This is the example that I just gave you earlier, where something goes wrong and one needs to repeat the process step over again to get it done right. This is called rework, because if everything had gone well at the beginning, then the rework loop could have been avoided. Defects result in unhappy customers and high processing costs for the company. Therefore, it is important to eliminate this MUDA from the process. If we look at this type of MUDA in our private life, we can imagine spending an hour in the kitchen cooking a meal for the family only to burn the food at the end. This is a defect, and everyone in the family is still hungry and expecting a meal, which means we need to invest additional time to cook another meal, resulting in rework. The second letter of the word downtime is O, and O stands for overproduction. This waste occurs when we create more than is needed. In business, we can see this as writing an excessive number of emails and putting many people on copy. This is a clear sign of overproduction. An example of overproduction in our private life could be preparing 55 pancakes, 25 muffins, and baking 2 different types of cake for a party of 3 children, which clearly creates more food than required for one party. The next letter in the word downtime is W, which represents the MUDA waiting. This is one of the wastes that can be quite critical. In most end-to-end processes, roughly 95% of the time, we have waiting times, and only 5% is value added. For example, consider the time it should take to enter new client information into the company database. As a customer, you sign a contract with the company. A few days later, you give them a call, and you find out that they do not even know who you are because they do not have you yet in their database or in their system. This is based on a real project that I have seen many years ago. When we looked at the end-to-end process, it took the company up to 6 weeks to enter new customer database into the system. This was clearly unacceptable and created many unhappy customers. During this process, the 6 weeks were mainly waiting times, with only 35 minutes of value-added time required for entering the client data into the company database. So what was happening the rest of the time for this end-to-end process? Well, there was this big MUDA, which is in this case the waiting time. After each process step, there was a long waiting time for collecting the data. After that process step, there was a waiting time before someone can check the data. Then there was a waiting time to obtain the approvals. Again, waiting time to obtain the signatures, then the printouts, and more. It was a very inefficient process. If the process had been better synchronized, the excessive waiting time could have been avoided. At the end of the project, when it was successfully completed, we were able to reduce the total lead time from 6 weeks to only 45 minutes. And this was done only by focusing on reducing the waiting time. In private life, we see this MUDA very often. For example, waiting in line at the supermarket or sitting in traffic. If you think about it, why should it take me or you 20 minutes to buy bananas at the supermarket when it could only take 4 minutes? Now, let's look at the next letter from the word downtime, and it's the N, which stands for non-utilized talent. In business, we can observe this MUDA when we do not have the right person doing the right job or when employees constantly deal with high workload. Another way to look at non-utilized talent is when employees work long hours and have no time to reflect on the work they are doing. They do not have the opportunity to find new ways to make processes more efficient or to test new standards. They do not even have the time to attend improvement workshops or courses to improve their skills. If this continues for a long period of time, it is seen as a MUDA, as the talent of the staff members is not being utilized efficiently. Consider a scenario where a person is driving to a meeting and their engine stalls on the way. In a hurry to get to the meeting, the person starts pushing the car. Passerby drivers ask him why is he pushing the car, to which he responds that he needs to get as fast as possible to a meeting. If he had taken a few minutes to think about the problem, he would have realized that the root cause was an empty fuel tank. By asking someone to get him to the nearest gas station to buy some fuel, he could have reached to the meeting much faster than just by pushing the car. Similar scenarios happen in the office where employees work hard to finish their work in a given time span, but the outdated process steps does not allow them to finish on time. The overtime does not give them enough time to reflect on the root causes of process issues or to even create an action plan. By attending workshops and courses, employees can become more efficient and faster in their processes, creating fewer backlogs and leaving on time. We need to provide employees with the time to think about ways to optimize their daily processes, to attend workshops that are related to projects, and even take digital courses to help them become more efficient. The next letter in the word downtime is T for transportation. This waste type refers to unnecessary movement of products and materials. In business, we often see unnecessary correspondence and long chain of emails that involve copying in many colleagues unnecessarily. These employees who were copied may forward the email to other colleagues from their team with the comment FYI for your information, resulting in even larger number of recipients, even though this email information may not have been that important or even needed. Another example is the transportation of documents to be verified, where documents need to be signed and brought from the assistant's desk to the manager's desk and back, and then to the next department, and again to the next department, creating unnecessary back and forth. In manufacturing, we may see the unnecessary transportation of materials moved from one location to another location within the warehouse. In our private lives, we can also see unnecessary transportation of goods used in our own household, such as importing fruits from far away instead of buying locally grown ones, resulting in a much higher carbon footprint. The next letter in the word downtime is the letter I, which stands for inventory. This waste type refers to an excess of products and materials not being processed. For example, at work we may see this as an inventory of emails that are left unread at the end of the day. These unread emails could contain client requests, verifications, or approvals needed to be processed to run other processes smoothly and avoid waiting time in other areas. Another example of the MUDA inventory is having too many toners for the printer stored in the warehouse, which may not be used in the future if the printer gets replaced with a newer model. Another example is having a large inventory of business paper that may result in waste because perhaps the company logo will change or even the address will change. In our private lives, having a large inventory of food in our kitchen may lead to throwing away a lot of food that was not consumed on time. The next letter in the word downtime is M, and M stands for motion. This is an unnecessary movement made by people. For example, once I observed a process where Department A was printing documents, stamping them, signing them, and then stapling them together. These documents were sent to the next department where someone had to remove the staples and scan all of the documentation. So the step of stapling them together in the first department and removing the staples in the second department, this is a big MUDA called motion. In our private life, we sometimes face a situation where we misplace our keys. Therefore, we end up asking our family members to search the house. It could take sometimes 5 minutes, 10, 15 minutes to find the keys. Every time this happens, we cause another MUDA, which is a lot of motion within the house. Some of my students ask me the question, what is the difference between the waste type transportation and the waste type movement, or also known as motion? The reason why this question comes up so often is that they are quite similar. The main difference between the two is that transportation is when something or someone goes from location A to location B, then to location C, and so forth. So there's a change of location. I used to work in a company where we had many office branches within the city of France. Many employees had to see where the next meeting was, and they spent a lot of time during the day commuting from one office building to another office within the same city to make it on time to their meetings. This was a big transportation MUDA because they spent an average of 2 hours per day commuting between the different office branches. On the other hand, the waste called movement is when a person is staying in one location and has excessive and unneeded movement. For example, the person stapling the documents together, and in the other department, another person removing the staples. Another example of excessive movement could be seen in the car industry, where employees had to bend over or even get onto the floor to install the parts into the car. Today, this movement has been eliminated because the car is raised to a higher level and tilted sideways so that the employee does not have to do the excessive movement and can perform their job while standing comfortably. In our private life, excessive motion can be often seen in the kitchen. Do you have everything you need to prepare a meal close at hand in the kitchen? Or do you need to invest lots of motion by going down to your knees to get the pots and pans and later getting onto a stool to get the plates from the top of the shelves and maybe remove some items to get access to your spices? If you add up all of this motion throughout the year, you spend quite a lot of time being inefficient. The last letter in the word downtime is the letter E, which stands for the MUDA extra processing. This is also known as overprocessing. It happens when we do more work than needed or produce higher quality than is required by the customer. For example, when a client sends us a request to deliver specific information from the contract and we provide them with the report plus extra details. These extra details would be seen as a MUDA because we have invested time to gather and send the information that was not requested by the customer. Another good example is internal controls. Do we really need to have internal control points after each process step, or is it sufficient to have internal control points at the critical areas where the process is prone to human error? If the 4I principle is good, does it mean that the 16I principle is even better? At what point does it become overprocessing? In our private life, we can also experience extra processing when we do not only iron our shirts and pants, but we also decide to iron our underwear and socks. Does this really add value, or is this overprocessing? Another example. If you own a car, you probably send it to the inspection every year to check if everything is fine. But let's say you went for an inspection every 2 months. Then that would be considered overprocessing. The same principle can be applied to your business processes as well. Now that you have seen the 8 types of waste that can be identified in both our business processes as well as in our private lives, it is important to note that every time we identify a MUDA, it costs us more time, more money, and resources. This is also called non-value added tasks because waste does not add any value to the customer or to us. Once we can identify and remove all of the MUDAs from our business processes and our private lives, we will be able to focus more on doing the things that add value. This will lead to better results, increased efficiency, and ultimately, more happiness. Now it's time to take a step-by-step approach to using the MUDA method and identifying the quick wins. For this, I will be speaking a little bit slower. Step 1. Open the MUDA identification fun sheet, which can be found on the downloadable Excel sheet. Here you will find one MUDA type per Excel sheet within this document. Optionally, if you do not want to be working with Excel, you can also take 8 pieces of paper and place the name of each MUDA on top of each page. Separate the page into 7 sections, like what you see on the Excel sheet. Each section represents one column from the Excel sheet. They are called MUDA type, potential root causes, potential solutions, in frame, out of frame, action plan, due date, and owner. Step number 2. Either by yourself or with some of your working colleagues, go to a meeting room and book the room for 1 to 2 hours. If you decide to go with some of your colleagues, tell them that the goal is to eliminate some things that do not add value for them and to the company, and to identify quick wins. These identified improvements should be implemented within 2 weeks. Step 3. Brainstorm the possible wastes that you see at your work by going through all of the 8 MUDA types. Try to find at least 5 MUDAs per waste type. This will give you a minimum of 40 identified wastes. That is from 5 MUDAs times the 8 waste types. If you are doing this with your colleagues, then you will have identified even more wastes. Enter this information into column D in the Excel template or on your piece of paper. Step 4. For each waste that you have identified, brainstorm at least one root cause. Be aware that you might have more than one potential root cause per waste type. For example, if you have one MUDA that is called employees do not have knowledge on how to improve the processes, you might have the following potential root causes. There is no time for sending employees to courses. A second potential root cause could be the manager does not take the initiative to send employees to courses. A third potential root cause is employees are not motivated to take part in courses. A fourth root cause could be employees do not know that there is a budget allocated for them to take courses. So in this case, you will see that we have 4 potential root causes for one MUDA within that waste type. Now you should take all of these potential root causes and enter them into the Excel sheet column E, called potential root causes. If you are using a piece of paper, then you would probably notice that there's not enough space in there. So this piece of paper either has to be very big, or you could do it on a brown paper when you put a big brown piece of paper on the wall, or you could also work with Post-its. Step number 5. Now it is time to brainstorm potential solutions. Be aware that each potential root cause could also have more than one potential solution. For example, let's take root cause number 4, which is employees do not know that there is a budget available for them to take part of courses each year. Here we could have various solutions. Point 1. Ask the manager how much budget is available for each team member for the courses per year. Point 2. Ask the manager if they could communicate this to the team during the next team meeting to bring awareness to the employees that this possibility exists. The next potential solution could be to ask the manager if they think it would be a good idea to speak with everyone about their potential training desires for the year. Another solution could be to investigate what kind of training could be interesting for you. Here we dive deep into this topic in the next episode number 4, which is called the Career Development Checklist, 5 steps to prepare you for your next management meeting. Another solution could be to create a training plan or a skills plan that the manager can use. This will help your manager identify skill gaps in some employees, and they can take measured actions to register these employees for a specific course. Wow, as you can see, there are a lot of solutions for just one potential root cause. If you create lots of solutions for each potential root cause, then you will have a long list of solutions for each waste type. All right, now we have all the potential solutions, and it's time to go to step number 6. Determine if these solutions are in frame of your possibility for creating a quick win implementation or not. In case they are out of frame, it may be due to various reasons, such as something that you cannot influence with a quick win action. For example, the current economic situation, the geographical location of the office, or employee satisfaction with the company culture, or perhaps complex issues that can only be solved in a lean project, green belt, or black belt project, or maybe it needs to be done through an IT project or any other type of project structured approach. If you find topics that need to be resolved in a project format, that is also great, because at the end of this activity, you will have a pipeline of brand new projects that can be allocated to a lean practitioner, to a green belt, or to a black belt. On the other hand, you will also be able to find a couple of quick wins. These should be then entered into the Excel sheet column G, which is called in frame, out frame of being a quick win. This column will help you filter out your potential quick wins. And now it's time to go to the next step, which is step number 7. Here it is important that you now only focus on the solutions that appear with quick wins, which are all of those that you have selected as in frame. For these quick wins, we will then brainstorm an action plan and enter them into column H, called Action Plan. And that's when we're going to move over to step number 8. Now it's time to set a due date in column I for each of these actions. Try to accomplish 80% of the actions within the first week, and the more challenging ones, they could be done in the second week. This should be round about 20% of your quick wins that will be implemented in the week number 2. And now, step number 9. Identify who will be the owner of these action points. As they are quick wins, most of them will be implemented quickly by yourself or by the colleagues who are doing the exercise with you. Before implementing these improvements, please present them to your manager and obtain their green light. In most cases, your manager will be positively surprised by your ability to identify so many low-hanging fruits and opportunities to make the working environment better. However, please be aware that some managers might feel a bit uncomfortable because they think that they should be the ones identifying the improvement areas and provide the solutions. If this happens, it could be more of a cultural or perhaps a personal issue. But in most cases, if a manager sees that you came up with great ideas, they will give you the green light to move forward with these implementation points. Now we have arrived to our final step, which is step number 10. Here it is all about follow-up and the implementation of those quick wins. After 2 weeks, communicate the success to your manager and to the team. Try to make a short, nice presentation with the improvements and the outcomes. If you would like to upgrade your skills in creating exciting presentations and learn great tricks on how to present them to your manager and to the team, you can take a look at the course in the Wave Academy called Presentation and Communication Skills. In the show notes, you will find the link to the training. We have now come to the end of this mini training, and I hope it was interesting and that you will have the opportunity to bring instant impact to your processes in a 2-week period by searching for those quick wins and enjoying your work with less MUDA. Please check the links to download the Excel sheet and watch the fun MUDA video. Feel free to let me know how it went. Your comments and feedback are essential to my team and me so that we can continuously improve the value we provide to you, as we want to give you the most from each episode. Please rate, subscribe, send your comments, and share with those who you think could benefit from this episode. I appreciate your messages and I'm grateful for them. I'm also a work in progress and I strive to do better every day. If you are interested in finding out more about Lean Six Sigma process improvement courses that can solve burning issues in your business and impress your manager, I invite you to check out the courses on our website, www.wave-bef.com. Thank you, take care, and see you soon in the next episode.